Welcome to the Village Council meetings, regular meeting of January 27th, 2026. As is our custom, we'll begin with an invocation and a pledge. We'll ask our colleague, Jason Whitaker, to provide the invocation.
Let us pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you this evening for this chance to meet and discuss village business. We thank you for our time together and pray that you'll bless council and as they discuss, for their discussions and decisions being made. And we thank you for such a wonderful place to live and to work and to play. And we thank you for getting us through this weekend without too much disruption to our power. And we just pray that you'll bless this meeting. In your name I pray. Amen.
Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you. As our custom, we will start with reports, and we'll begin with a report from the village manager. Doug?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We just completed our groundbreaking ceremony for the library. So it sounds, I don't want to be anticlimactic because it's been a long time in the making, but we just finished and we had a good time, even though it was a little cold outside. This Friday, if you like the cold, you can hang out with us again. Friday at 10 a.m. at Marshall Park, we are doing Beyond the Liberty Tree. So we are planting a live oak to recognize the 250th birthday of our country. So again, join us at 10 a.m. at Marshall Park. And then it was mentioned earlier, but this past weekend we had the ice storm. I want to thank our public services, fire department, police department for all the time and effort they put in. Luckily it wasn't nearly as bad as it could have been. And we'll gear up for a potential next storm on this upcoming Saturday. So that's all the report I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you for the weather report, Doug. Let me comment, too. Almost everybody here was at the groundbreaking ceremony for the Gibbon Memorial Library, the new Gibbon Memorial Library. And as I mentioned out there, it's a big step for the village of Pinehurst. It's been 30 years in discussion, as many residents tell me and remind me about that. And now we have action, official action by the council and the village for the first time. And I'm hoping that the destination was worth the journey. I think it will be. If you've watched the development of this over the last couple of years, council members and staff have put in painstakingly time to get something that they believe is right for the village. And so we're looking forward to that. And as I mentioned, hopefully a year from now, we will be browsing through the shelves in our new library, and we'll be able to do it by pulling into a parking space right next to the library there. We won't have to be hunting a lot for parking spaces, and that's a good thing. And the council and the staff combine the right size with the right location and the right budget. So congratulations to all involved in this, and we look forward to the work product at the end. I want to echo Doug's comments on the successful storm response, particularly by the staff. Well done to all, and to our residents. Good preparation. One, you followed what the staff told you, and two, you have been through this a little bit before, so it was a helpful exercise that way. And I couldn't help but remind myself of the Community Connect item we have on our website, so that you, as a resident, can enter pertinent information on the Community Connect site, so that in the event that an emergency vehicle arrives at your home, whether it be a fire or non-fire, they'll know you got some dogs in there. They'll know there are young kids, and they'll know that because it'll be pulled up on their screen in their vehicles. So please make use of Community Connect if you haven't yet. Just last week, the Mayor Clement of Southern Pines decided not to seek a third one-year term as chairman of this Sand Hills Metropolitan Planning Organization, and she, at the last minute, nominated me. And my colleagues elected me as chairman for 2026. So I'll be reporting back here from time to time, just as I did when I was just a member of it. And hopefully we'll continue to be engaged and be a constructive participant in the SMPO. The staff of the SMPO is actually housed here in the village of Pinehurst, right down the hall. So we have a good relationship at that end. Lastly, I wanted to mention something that just occurred, and it's been in the paper, and it was the passing of a very celebrated resident, Marty McKenzie, who I think many of you know, maybe either worked with him or knew him, whatever it may be. And he was a sort of bigger-than-life figure here in the village, and he really loved Pinehurst. And he passed away on Saturday. And to my surprise, the Thursday before that, my wife and I had joined him at his table at the forum event at the Carolina. And he was lively as ever and partying, so to speak, dancing. And so we were shocked, as many were, when it happened on Saturday. And I always thought of him as Mr. Pinehurst. And to give you an idea how much it was ingrained in him, his email address literally was marty@pinehurst.net. So that's someone who really took the village seriously like that. So just keep him and his family in your prayers and thoughts as we go forward here. With that, I'll turn it over to Jeremy. Oh, go ahead, Jeremy. I turned and saw you. You want to speak or not? Caught you off guard.
Well, I will certainly, but given the mayor pro temp, I'm assuming he's going to say something very similar. He and I, John Taylor and I met with DOT last Thursday, the 22nd, and we had a very productive meeting. We were able to connect on a lot of different points. I'm sure John will take this a little bit further, but he was able to really show them as a group a lot of positive data since the installation of the bollards and some other preemptive style, improvements to the traffic circle. He was able to show some factual data to where the traffic circle's safer because of those efforts. And in this design from DOT just seems to be a little bit, is newer. So we're just hoping that, that meeting spawns more meetings, which we're intending to do, providing more connection points, just to make sure that we vet it from a Pinehurst viewpoint. We still seem to be have some distance between us for a couple different topics upon safety, as well as the aesthetics of the circle. So we're hoping to bring some of that back together, a little bit closer together, and I'll let John expand on that a little bit further. But it was a very productive meeting, I thought. But still far apart, newer design on their behalf, and I'm just hoping that, considering it's new from their process, that they don't push it through quickly and miss truly the opportunity to provide something that's not only safe but aesthetically proper for Pinehurst Village. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. Sorry.
No comments beyond that, other than congratulations to our mayor for being the chairman of the SMPO. I think that's a good thing. So.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor.
Just one question related to that, as I am the backup voter. I
Yes.
think I'm attending in your stead in February, I think.
You might be. My schedule may have changed due to something.
But there's also a vice chairman.
There is a vice
I don't
chairman.
have to chair the group if you are not.
No, you don't have to, but under the bylaws, I don't think that would work that way, but it's interesting. The vice chair is Pam Harris, the mayor of Whispering Pines.
Two things to comment on. One, we'll stay on the topic of the SMPO. I did attend the governing board meeting last Wednesday. And at that meeting, the governing board adopted a growth assumption from the specific projections that have been made by our village manager, our village staff, and the other 7, I believe, communities that are in the SMPO. They have forecast population, households, and employment out to 2030, and then had to adopt a growth rate to extrapolate those out to 2055. The debate was between 1.5% and 1.75%. The governing body chose the higher number. There are some pragmatic reasons for that, because when the SMPO ultimately proposes various road projects in the future. Part of the way that the DOT scores those has to do with population. And in that sense, you could say game theory dictates you ought to guess high. The second reason that you ought to guess high is because these are long lead time projects, and ideally you'd like to build them before they're needed. You don't want to be behind the power curve there. And thirdly, the SMPOs, they're not in the business, they're not an adjunct of the state demographer. Their purpose is not to accurately forecast population. That said, one of the interesting things which I discovered and mentioned at the meeting is that the state demographer actually does review their population estimates every year. They typically collect this information in September and October and then publish the results in January. A year ago, it was on January 15th. This year, that process has been delayed a little bit, primarily due to the government shutdown. They did not receive the normal information they do from the U.S. Census Bureau. So I've been keeping an eye out for that. I will not be surprised if the state demographer's estimate for Moore County population comes down again as it did a year ago. So be keeping an eye on that. A second thing then to say is following up on Jeremy's comments. I did think that we had a very good dialogue. One of the things that I have done is, you know, when the DOT talks about safety, the data that they use comes at the state level, but the origin of that data are local police departments, the responding or sheriff's departments, the people who respond when an accident gets called in. And so I've taken our police department records, and the DOT, when they look at the traffic circle, they forecast accidents, what they call in the vicinity of the circle. And roughly speaking, that means start at the circle and go outward to the next major intersection or the next stoplight. So if you're going up 211, that would be to Page Road. If you're going up 15501 north of the circle, that would be, I guess, to Memorial. Either Memorial or, again, there's another one that comes in there, whatever the first light is. I've taken a look at just the ones in the circle itself. And the surprising thing is, unlike what was represented a year ago, where the statement was made that the incidence of crashes has gone up substantially, the trend is really flat or slightly down. When you can look at that either all day long, or you can look at it at the two peak hour periods that they identify, morning and afternoon. So that was part of the discussion that we had with the DOT. We talked about the possible implications in their current design as they widen some of the roads that could be coming very close to some of the existing residences. What about sound abatement? They haven't said specifically that there would be a sound study, but it is certainly, in their words, I think likely. And then when we talked about, well, okay, if you do a sound study and you find that some sort of remediation is required, what are the options there? And the answer is there are a couple of options, but realistically, the one that is most common are what you've seen either along expressways or in some urban areas, these 15-foot high sound walls. And that by itself would have some, I think, significant aesthetic impact on the circle. But the other thing is that typically utilities and so forth run along the roadways. If you were to put those up, the Duke Energy or other providers of those utilities would want a right-of-way on the outside of them so that if there was a problem, their crews don't have to be working right next to 45-mile-an-hour traffic. Effectively, they would be coming into somebody's backyard to do that work. That was not something which had come up before. Something else which we raised with them based on some input from the public is people had focused on the possible expansion that could be necessary along Dalrymple Road, but we've had people come to us who live in Pinehurst Trace, and there are some possible impacts there, and people along Beaver Lane. Those whose backyards face Midland Road, strangely enough, they are not on the city water system. They're all on septic systems. The properties across Midland Road are. The properties south of them in number 9 or the apartment complex are, but those are not. And the DOT was really not aware of that. They hadn't taken a look at that. And the final point that I'd make on this is, in May of this year, they will reach what they call 25% project completion. And that has ramifications for how they go forward. So we will be discussing this, I think, at a future council meeting and intending to meet with them again. The final thing is that this new design was not one of the 17 or 18 that were studied a year ago. And I've asked them to give us the statistics that compare to a table that was in that very large document that contrasted all the other ones to see how different is this from the CFI, the continuous flow intersection that they proposed, and how different is it from the other 17 or 18 things that they studied. So other than that, I didn't have anything else going on.
That's right. Well, thank you to yourself and to Jeremy for drilling down on this topic, because this is very important to the Village of Pinehurst, its residents, and sort of a little bit of our future. We're dealing with our landmark world. Barbara Ficklin, please.
Thank you. Although the Beautification Committee does not meet in the month of January, I understand that one of their projects that they've been working on for the last numerous months is actually underway, and that is the replacement of the pine cones at the trestle. So if you get, and the new pine cones, by the way, are twice the size of the old ones, since the old ones seem to disappear on the trestles. So when you get out and drive around, take a look at that. The Beautification Committee will be meeting again in February. The only other thing I wanted to mention, which I actually mentioned at the last meeting, the last council meeting, relates to the Community Cookbook Project, which is part of our America's 250 celebration here in Pinehurst. That is the cookbook. We're asking for recipes, family recipes that are handed down through generations, and hopefully with some stories that go along with those recipes. The date for the last date for submission of a recipe is February 13, which is only a couple of weeks away. I understand from talking with Kristen that we have received some recipes and stories, but we need lots more. So I hope you will take some time. It is very easy. You can submit the recipes online. I did it. If I can do it, anyone can do it. And it's actually fun. So please take some time and share your family recipes for our cookbook. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks for reminding everybody about that, because it's a hard deadline, so we really need participants to step up. Thank you. Councilman Fitzpatrick, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had the pleasure last week of meeting with Mickey Foster and his executive team at First Health, and what an extraordinary asset we have there, and what an extraordinary group of professionals are in place. They invited me to participate in their 8:30 morning meeting, where they report on every health system in their network, every manager, about what the issues of the day are, what the anticipated issues coming up are, and what the remediation plan is for any deficiencies that might have been noticed. I've been in a lot of health systems all around the country, and I have never seen such radical transparency and such radical accountability between department chairs before. And so I was really taken aback by this, and I think we are very well served to have that executive team in place there.
And thanks for stepping up for that role, excuse me, as our liaison with First Health. You happen to be a perfect fit for it, and I'm glad it worked out well.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, I forgot one thing. You actually reminded me when you talked about the Citizen Connect. We upgraded our Code Red system. That is our reverse 911 system that you get phone calls from us. So you may have received a call from a Seattle, Washington number, and you're like, what is that? Who's calling me from Seattle? I don't know anyone there. That is our Code Red system telling you that trash was delayed one day.
I did get that call.
You did get, yeah, and you probably like, who is that? So
Once I started listening to it, I didn't, wonder about it, but
Yep. So that is just so everyone knows, those random calls from Seattle are from us. You can save it in your phone as like Code Red Village of Pinehurst, something like that. That might remind you for the future. And a reminder that we are on a one-day delay for trash pickup this
Thank you.
week. So like it's a Monday holiday, kind of treat it like that.
Yeah, we should make sure we familiarize the NAC with this Seattle situation too, but thanks. Just one item, I'm always trying to pick up little facts about Pinehurst to just further my education, and there's so many interesting facts. If you Google or go to chat, for those of you who are more sophisticated than I am, and you ask them to name a community in this country that has a population of 18,000 people and has a 400-bed hospital or more, one answer comes up. It's the village of Pinehurst. So keep in mind how lucky we are to have a facility of that nature in our community of this size. But anyway, I'll leave with that, and we will move on to the consent agenda, unless anyone has anything else to add. Okay. The items below, well, I'll tell you what, we'll entertain a motion.
I think you should do your
Lem-
introductory.
Yeah, let me cover this and then we'll strike one. The items that are listed below on the consent agenda are considered routine or have been discussed at length in previous meetings and will be enacted by one motion. No separate discussion will be held unless requested by a member of the village council. Go ahead.
I move to remove consideration of item 4.A.1, approval of the January 13th, 2026 regular meeting minutes from the consent agenda, and move consideration of this item to section 10 other business as item A, and further move to approve all other items listed and considered routine on the consent agenda.
Okay, motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion adopted. Now, we will go on to the remaining items on the consent agenda. Item 2, the work session minutes from January 13th. Item 3, the closed session minutes from January 13th. Item 4, the special meeting minutes from January 21st. And item B, approval of village manager's employment contract as amended on January 13th, 2026.
I think we just approved them.
Yeah, John's motion
Oh,
covers.
your motion did approve them?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well then, so be it. They're done. Thank you. I thought I guess I read it as we're just going to approve striking. All right. Thank you. You saved me time. And that is the end of the consent agenda. Now we have an honorary resolution. We should probably vote on this before we have him vote. So I'll entertain a motion for this honorary resolution.
I move to approve Resolution 26-02, honoring the service of Mr. Jack Farrell as council member for the village of Pinehurst.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, hearing no dissents, we will now ask Jack Farrell to come forward and present him with,
I thought there might be significant discussion of this.
well,
Apparently not.
does someone want to say something?
No, motion's been approved.
Okay. We'll reserve some time after we publicly embarrass him with this. To you, and then you can have your say. This is a resolution honoring the services of Mr. Jack Farrell as a council member for the village of Pinehurst, North Carolina. Whereas Mr. Farrell served the village of Pinehurst as council member from January 24 to December 25, and whereas Mr. Farrell dedicated his time, knowledge, and abilities to the village and provided thoughtful consideration to all matters, and whereas Mr. Farrell played an important role in notable projects such as the design of the new Given Memorial Library, and whereas Mr. Farrell served as the council representative on the Regional Land Use Advisory Commission, as liaison to the National Park Service, Landmark Status, and the alternative liaison to the Tri-Cities Work Group, to Pinehurst Resort, USGA, and Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and whereas Mr. Farrell served on the 2025 Pinehurst Development Ordinance Update Focus Group and was integral in the adoption of the newly updated 2025 Pinehurst Development Ordinance. And whereas Mr. Farrell strongly supports preservation of the village's historic district, landmarks, and open space, and whereas Mr. Farrell was and continues to be a strong advocate for the community of the village of Pinehurst, now therefore be it resolved by the Village Council of Pinehurst, North Carolina, in a regular meeting assembled this 27th day of January as follows: that on behalf of the citizens of Pinehurst, the Village Council expresses deep appreciation and gratitude to Mr. Farrell for the gifts of time, ability, and commitment in carrying out his duties as council member for the Village of Pinehurst, and that a copy of this resolution shall be spread upon the permanent minutes of the Village of Pinehurst, and a copy, therefore, executed by the mayor and the village clerk, be presented to Jack Farrell as a token of our gratitude on this day, January 27th. Very much congratulations to Jack Farrell. Following, go.
Oh, thank you, Pat. I appreciate it very much. I guess some comments are in order. And I have strong instructions from Janet that if you can't keep your comments to what you have on a 3x5 card, you're overdoing it. So I have my 3x5 card. So my first set of thanks are, and I have a lot of people to thank you, but my first thank you would be to Janet, my wife, for her support, patience, perseverance, and understanding through the trials and tribulations of coming home with various thoughts and ideas and trying to bounce them off her when she at 8, 10 o'clock at night or whenever it is, and I appreciate that very much. Thank you. The second group of people I would like to thank, and that's Doug and the entire staff and employees of the Village of Pinehurst. I mean, these are the people who actually develop and deliver the services that the community enjoys. And in addition to doing that, they have the additional responsibility to manage and guide the various council members and boards and commissions that are very much a part of the village, and try to keep them on the straight and narrow and not run into many bumps along the way or drive themselves into the curb or the ditch, as commissions and boards tend to do. So I appreciate that very much. It's a thankless job, to tell you the truth. And my last set of thank yous are for council members, past and present, who have given me the opportunity to serve the community both on the council and in other boards and commissions over the last 16 years. It's been an honor to do that, and I hope that I've been able to, in some way, better the community, which is a very important community to me and has been for the last 67 years. Let's put it that way. So thank you very much, and I'm honored, and thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jack. And congratulations once again. If anyone at this time has a Jack Farrell story they'd like to share, we will waive the rules and open the mic. Jeremy?
I'll just make a comment. You know, I've worked with Jack on the planning and zoning and a few different capacities with the village, and I will just, I'll just like to state that I've never met a more knowledgeable man, and I'll say man because Audrey is here as well, that's more knowledgeable about our community. And working alongside of him and having that knowledge to always ask questions to, and not only lean on that, but his demeanor and his approach and problem solving, and he truly is a man that is willing to do whatever role it is for our community to make it better today and tomorrow. And so I've just learned a lot of admiration for Jack, so thanks for letting me, lean on you a lot, and I'm hoping maybe one day, if there's a spot that opens up on council, that we work with you again here in this capacity, but thank you.
Okay, John.
I'd like to follow up on that. I take pride in the preparation that I do for council meetings, but I can't tell you in the 2 years that Jack was on the council with me, how many times after I thought I was prepared, he raised something where I said, why didn't I thinking about that? And so as a tribute to both a different and more complete thought process, as well as dedication to the village, that is the standard to which I aspire. And I have learned, I hope one day to learn as many things as you have forgotten, which I don't think is very many, because your knowledge of various aspects of Pinehurst is truly encyclopedic. I thank you for the time that you put into it and the time that you've educated me. So thank you very much.
Barb?
Well, all I can say is what an honor it has been for me to work with Jack over the last 2 years. Coming in as a new council person is overwhelming, but when Jack Farrell is sitting next to you and has 16 years worth of experience in this village and has never forgotten a single detail of anything he did or said, it just made this experience a very pleasant one. I am stunned by the number of questions that I must have asked Jack over the last 2 years, and he never once came back with, I don't know, never, and quickly, and must have an arsenal of computers and information somewhere, because the answers come back instantaneously. All I can say is thank you, and the entire village of Pinehurst owes you a huge debt of gratitude for all that you have given over these many, many years. Thank you.
I feel like this chair should go with you, Jack. Jack sat down with Barb and I the other day and gave us a master class on the history of the National Park Service relationship and landmark status, and prepared for us an exhaustive dossier on the history of that. Incredibly helpful. I've been on the steep portion of the learning curve here for the council since day -1. But these types of interactions I've had with Jack have helped enormously to begin to get me up to speed on these important issues, and I'm very grateful, and I'll be calling again.
Mr. Mayor, can I
Yes,
throw
go-
my story in as well?
Go ahead.
I'm just grateful that of the 2 Farrells, we got to keep Janet, but no. No, Jack, it's always been a pleasure to work with you, and I can say from all the staff that we appreciate the thoughtfulness that you put into all the work that you did here for the village, and we're going to miss you, and like Jeremy, we can't wait for another vacancy for you to fill.
I can remember the first time I met Jack. It had to do with a local issue. And I was very new, was commuting to Pinehurst, and we met somewhere and started chatting, and I said, geez, I agree with this guy. I don't know, I'm not sure who he is, but and we started chatting, and we worked hard on a particular local issue together. And it was that experience that taught me he really knows particular items about issues and process and the history of Pinehurst. And it was that same when he was on the Planning and Zoning Board, and then it was that same way when he joined the council. And Pinehurst is very lucky to have residents like Jack who pay attention to detail and remember history, because in a community like that, that's important. So Jack, thanks for all you've done. We really appreciate it. Okay. All right. We shall move on to item 6, which is public comments. Shannon, did we have any comments? Public commenters. Oh, okay, thank you. All righty. I'll call first Mandy Luck. Mandy, please come forward, thank you. Just state your name and your address, and please go ahead, Jess.
Good afternoon. My name is Mandy Luck. I live on Spring Lake Drive in Village Acres, and I'm here today to speak in favor of the retiree health reimbursement account policy that is on the agenda today, item 7B. My husband works for the Pinehurst Fire Department and has for the last 28 years. He started his firefighting career with Pinehurst and has never thought about seeking employment anywhere else. My husband's actually finishing up work at his second job, or he would be the one here speaking before you this afternoon. He did send each one of you an email last night regarding the retiree health reimbursement account policy that is on the agenda. I hope each one of you had a chance to read it and consider all the points that he made. If for some reason you didn't, let me know and I'll be happy to give you a copy. This resolution came before the council in June of last year and is up for reconsideration again today. Passing this resolution is extremely important to each and every employee of the Village of Pinehurst. The employees that serve the village and its residents deserve to know that there will be an allowance for their health care in their retirement after their many years of service. Knowing that the day that you retire, you will no longer have health insurance is a scary thought. Other agencies within Moore County, including the town of Aberdeen and the county of Moore, provide health insurance options to their retirees. Providing this benefit will encourage longevity for current employees and also be an incentive in recruiting new employees. I know that the village spends a lot of time, effort, and money doing workforce surveys to each and every employee. For the last several years, retiree health insurance benefits have been at the top of the priorities in these employee surveys. I can promise you that many employees are watching this live stream right now with great interest and paying close attention to this meeting. I ask you to please listen to what the employees are saying and respond to them by passing this resolution. I'm sure that you have all heard about the danger of cancer in firefighters. As the wife of a career firefighter, I implore you to please make sure that my husband and other firefighters have an allowance for health insurance after retirement in their many years of service to Pinehurst. I know that much thought and planning has been done to initiate a plan that is beneficial to the employees and affordable to the village. Each of you sit in a position of authority. You have the means to pass this resolution and affect the lives of the employees for many years to come. I ask each of you to please vote in favor of this resolution. It is truly a small investment that will provide benefits for many years into the future. Thank you for your time and your consideration of this very important item on your agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Luck. Next person who indicated desire to address the council is Debbie Layler.
Good afternoon. My name is Debbie Layler. I live at 80 Azalea Road. I am coming to ask about item 9B, Spur Road. I apologize that I was unaware of this project, or this request, proposed amendment, and have no background on it. And although it's wonderful that you've moved the public comment section of your public meetings to the beginning, it also means that then the questions I have, you may answer when you get to this item on the agenda. So I will give you my questions now and hope that you will address them. That's an unusual situation. This is, people who don't know, it's a stretch of Spur Road, I'm assuming between Everett and Community Road. I think it's probably the only road in Pinehurst that's not paved.
Close. There's another.
Right. It's a stretch of road of particular interest because of the two very active short-term rentals which back up onto it, each of which have multiple tenants multiple times over the course of the year. So parking is really an issue there. And so I guess I'm sort of wondering, I don't understand where this proposal is coming from, or why, if it came from one of the homeowners, or whether all the property owners abutting the road have been notified of this proposed change. The only comparable situation I could think about was what is now called Shaw Road Northeast, which runs between Culdee and Graham. Used to be an alley. I believe the residents requested it be turned into a road. It was, but as I understood it at the time, it would have to be paved in order to be considered a road for Pinehurst purposes. I don't know if that's an accurate memory or not. The road is now, that lane is now Shaw Road Northeast. It is graveled, it's not paved. in respect of or in light of the two short-term rentals there, 50 Maple and 10 Maple, I think you all are aware of them. I'm very concerned that the parking regulations be exempted back there because I think that the only exempt parking regulations are you can park on the side of the road on the Pine Straw, which is not always enforced overnight. I'm concerned whether the police would have be able to get through there if there are no parking regulations at all. At any rate, I hope you will address this and think about this change and whether perhaps an alternative is to pave the road and keep it as a road of piners with garbage pickup and parking regulations enforced. Thanks. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Thank you. Okay. Are there anybody else who would like to offer a public comment, even if they have not signed up to make one? Hearing none, we will move on to resolutions. The first resolution has to do with reappointing Matt Jones to the Planning and Zoning Board and the Board of Adjustment. He is currently the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Board, if my memory is correct. Is there any comments, Doug, that you have, or Alex, or you?
Matt's a great member of the committee, and we recommend that he's approved. I will note that it's only for 1 year. He has served 5 years to date. We've done some switching of term limits, and so to keep him at the max of 6, we'd only be reappointing him for 1 year.
1 year appointment, okay. I think that's probably a good idea. Well, I'll entertain a motion unless someone has any questions for Doug. Matt is not here, right? Right?
Not here, no.
Okay.
I move to.
You noticed his really pretty hair, so.
Yes, we would have. I move to approve Resolution 26-07, reappointing Mr. Matt Jones to the Planning and Zoning Board and Board of Adjustment for the term effective February 1st, 2026, until the end of his term on January 31st, 2027.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion adopted. Let's go on to B. The Resolution 26-08, adopting the retiree health reimbursement account policy. Come forward, ladies.
Yeah, we have Angie and Dana that will be speaking to this, but as they walk up, I'll just introduce, and actually Mandy did a very good job of kind of highlighting this item. But we brought this to the council back in June of last year, and there were some questions about how it would work, and so we went back and made some tweaks, tightened some language up, and we feel like we have a product that is reasonably priced that will meet the need of our community. Not to steal too much of Angie's thunder, but this is a consistent feedback that we receive from employees, is that they're concerned about healthcare coverage in their retirement days. So this is meant to address that concern and make us competitive compared to other communities that we might be hiring against, but also kind of do the right thing by our employees and provide this coverage for them.
Go right ahead.
Doug gave a nice summary. There's not a whole lot left to say, but what I will say is we came to you back in June and requested a retiree allowance based on feedback from council at that time. We went back to the drawing board, and we do feel we have a more financially sustainable model, an alternative to what we suggested last June. This is a retiree HRA, and how an HRA works is you submit receipts, and we reimburse you based on the policy. If you don't submit receipts, you don't get a reimbursement. And we would be limiting the HRA to healthcare premiums. So you can only submit receipts for healthcare premiums. As Doug mentioned, this is something that comes up in our surveys. It has come up in our surveys for years. We have sessions with the managers. It comes up then. It comes up when we're having lunch. It comes up all the time because it is an important issue, and it is something that employees do think about and worry about. All of you are aware that the cost of health care is very expensive, and when you're in retirement, it's a big concern, and it's a high priority. So the policy we've brought you today is for a health care reimbursement account to be set up for retirees. There are parameters that we have listed in the policy. and we would respectfully ask for you to approve it. And Dana's here for, I know you're going to have some financial questions, and that's why she is here. She can talk about those a little bit more intelligently, and I am happy to answer any questions that you have about the policy and how it will work.
Question, it's just covering the premiums,
Yes,
okay?
correct.
So, and what is an average premium?
Well, just to let you know, the premium for an employee only here is about $789, somewhere around
Annual.
there. And per month.
Per month?
Per month.
That's important, okay.
Correct, correct. So our policy says that we will reimburse up to the employee premium, but no more than $800, because those premiums do go up from year to year a little bit. So right now, it's capped at $800. You would only get 100% of that if you worked 30 years and met the other parameters.
30 years.
25 years, you would get 75% of that, and 20 years, you would get 50%.
And Dana, maybe before you start, I've received 4 emails today. I think they were addressed to
Yeah.
all people on
Yeah.
council. And it might have been the first one that I got. It contained language that was different than my recollection. So I went back and I watched the conversation from June 24th, I think, of
Yes.
last year. And the issue was that at that point in time, we were not able to quantify what the potential financial impact was. And I suspect that you're now going to be able to do that. But as I listened to the discussion, there was not a bias on the council against the idea of it. It was just not wanting to commit to something when we had no idea what the potential financial impact was. And so for all of the employees who may be listening now or listening later, certainly, if anything, events at the national level have only heightened the importance of this issue. So with that as preamble, Dana, I'm sure you have all the numbers. You always have all the numbers. So.
All right. Yeah, if there's no other questions on the structure of the plan or the proposed policy
Yeah,
itself.
one question, it said there will be a cost for an administrator to run the program and process reimbursements. Is that a collateral duties or additional duties for someone who works here, or are we hiring someone new?
So it would run through a third party, and it's very minimal. It runs about $5 per person per month.
Okay,
So
thanks.
relatively inexpensive.
I'm saying, but administratively, if I'm such an employee, I would write the check for whatever my health insurance was and submit a claim for that, and you would reimburse me up to the maximum based on my years of employment and so forth.
That's correct.
So we don't just automatically put this in because I might change my insurance and I only, if I went without insurance, then I'm ineligible for any sort of reimbursement.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, and say you were working for someone else and your insurance is fully covered, then you would not be eligible. Things like that are all built into that.
Keep jumping around here, but and what about Medicare? How does this work with Medicare?
If you're eligible for Medicare, you would not be eligible for this program. And we did note that in the policy, right? Mm-hmm.
So in theory, this is from date of retirement to age 65, in
Correct,
theory.
that's correct. Unless you become eligible for Medicare early or for any reason.
Go ahead, Dean.
Yep, so we did do a financial analysis to try to estimate the financial impact of this plan. It's impossible to know exactly how many people in a given year will actually be eligible, and it will certainly fluctuate over time because you can have multiple people added on in a given year. They will be on the plan for different lengths of time. We are going to require annual re-enrollment. It will be we felt that was important because we also need to make sure we kind of have a touch point with these retirees throughout their eligibility in the plan for address changes in case someone dies, things like that may come up where we may not be notified otherwise. So that is a consideration that we made as well. And so to try to at least gauge more of just roughly how much this would cost the village in a given year over a period of time, we looked back at all the historical retiree information that we had going back to 2007 was the earliest retiree we had noted in our current financial system. So we have anyone that retired from 2007 through 2025, so 19 years worth of data, and basically took that population of retirees and acted as if this plan was in place when they retired. So that gave us 66 people to look at and say, based on their years of service and their age when they retired, would they have been eligible for this? And if so, which of those three tiers, the 20 years, 25, or 30? Out of the 66, 25 of the retirees would have been eligible based on the years of service and age. And then we projected those out from the age they were at retirement to 65 to see kind of how the numbers would work out. We did not make any sort of adjustment for how offering this plan to current employees may impact people's decision to retire at certain points in time. I feel like that we know it will have some impact, but it would be difficult to quantify. So we just went with that group of retirees that we had to look at. We did, however, make some adjustments for the expectation that we will not be paying out 100% of the amount that people are eligible for in a given year. People may not have eligible expenses, as in the examples that were mentioned earlier. They may not re-enroll. They may have other reasons where they do not request the reimbursement, and we are not obligated to pay it out to them. We know we're not going to have the maximum amount that eligible people could get paid as the actual amount we end up paying out in the future, most likely. And so over the course of the time period that we projected out from those 25 retirees that would have been eligible, it worked out that the average annual payments would be about $45,000. And the majority of the years that we looked at, it would be less than $60,000. So it will fluctuate over time. You may have larger cohorts of people that retire and are eligible in certain years, or particularly for firefighters, for example, if they tend to retire or younger. If someone starts working as a firefighter at age 18, they're 48 when they have 30 years of service in. So they can retire, they can become eligible for this plan when they're 50. So if they worked till they were 50, they would get a lot more years of this benefit than other employees potentially. So there will be years where the cost is higher, but in most of the years, the projected cost is less than $60,000. That's the actual budget impact, the cash we would be paying out in a given fiscal year, approximately. So most years you're looking at anywhere from maybe $30,000 to $60,000.
All right, so when I went through this, I thought about the people who qualify at 100%. 800 times 12 is 9,600. Let's round that to 10,000 to keep the math easy. If it costs the village $45,000 a year, that means there are only 4.5 people who qualify. And conversely, if we look at the 50% example, if everyone was at 50%, and even if it was at 60,000, you're talking about 12 people. So
Yeah.
we're not talking about a large population here.
Correct.
Is it your belief that as this population ages over time, given normal turnover and what have you, that this probably doesn't grow to 40 or 50 people? It could get larger than 12, but it's not ever likely to be 30 or 40.
I think that would be extreme.
Yeah.
Because they'll age out and
Right.
become
Right.
Medicare eligible. And
Eventually, they get to that point and they're dropping off as other people are coming in.
That would
Yeah.
be
And-
correct.
Right, you're eligible for this if you retire from the village.
Yes.
So it's not a portable item.
Correct.
You're retiring from the village. Okay.
Correct. And, someone's years of service at another municipality, like they may have other eligible years of service for the pension system. Those years of service with a different entity do not count towards this benefit.
Right.
But I could leave here after 20 years, go to work somewhere else, and then come back at some point and qualify under this program.
Your years of service have to be consecutive,
And they have to terminate here.
and you have to retire with the retirement system. Right.
Yep.
Dana's, I'm sure, going to talk about this next bullet point, but we had an actuarial liability analysis, so I will not much to talk about.
Yes. So this plan would qualify as an OPEB, that stands for Other Post-Employment Benefits liability under the government accounting standards, which is very, very prescriptive in how actuaries have to calculate that liability and how we have to report it. This liability is, a present value of expected future payments. This was done using our current population of active employees, so the actuaries, and this was just very preliminary, this was not the full-blown actuarial analysis that they would do for our actual audit report, but this was to give us an idea of roughly what would that liability be, and it came back with about $614,000 as the projected liability, or preliminary, a liability amount. And that would only be put into our audit report. That does not mean that we have to fund $614,000 in a separate fund somewhere or anything like that. We are going to be doing this on a pay-as-you-go basis.
When this was first debated last June, it was in the context also of the salary review that was done, position review that was done. That was the more extensive part of the presentation. This actually,
Yes.
this came up in the last 12 minutes of the meeting.
It did. We had 3 items. We had the compensation study, we had the holiday and vacation change, and then we had this.
But
Correct.
if I remember the histogram from the compensation study, a substantial portion of our employees are 5 years or less at this point.
Correct.
And that mirrors generally what the consultant saw in other municipalities, both in Moore County and elsewhere.
Let me, question again. How do our neighbors shape up here? Who offers what in the Moore County world is really what I'm interested in. And I don't mean
So-
Moore County itself, I just mean the Moore County
Sure.
communities.
The only 2 that I'm aware that offer any kind of retiree benefits are Aberdeen and the county.
They're offering what we're looking at.
Well,
No.
they offer retiree plans. So Aberdeen offers a plan. It's capped at 50% after 20 years of service. They have changed theirs. They used to have quite a bit more lucrative plan, and they pulled back on that, and they only pay up to 50% for 20 years. However, they do offer post-65 benefits as well. It goes post-65, so as long as you live after you retire from Aberdeen, you would be eligible for that benefit.
Well, what was the advantage of them pulling back?
Because it was costly at the scale they
assumes
were
it was
at the
expensive.
scale they were offering it. Right. Right.
In Moore County,
Yep. Moore County has very similar. You have to, your last 15 years have to be with Moore County.
15 years?
They go up to 75% when you've got 30 years, with the last 15 being with the county. So you could actually work in other places. If you've got 30 years with the retirement system and the last 15 have to be with the county will pay 75%. If you've got 20 years, again, the last 15 have to be with the county. 20 years in the retirement system, they'll pay 50%. And if you're eligible for retirement and you've got 15 years with the county, you can stay on their plan, but you're responsible for the.
And
And that's how theirs works. You stay on their plan.
I get you.
With both of these groups.
And what percentage, we're going to be picking up 100%?
Only for people who have 30 years of service.
30 years is the 100%.
But we're not going to let them stay on our plan because we feel that would be cost prohibitive. We're going to offer them money towards their healthcare premiums. So it's a little more cost effective.
It was an alternative to leave them on the plan even though they were no longer working. But that is much more expensive than.
Much more expensive. And that's why a lot of municipalities who in the past offered retiree medical and allowed their retirees to stay on the plan, that's why they've pulled back. A lot of places don't offer it at all because that is very costly to leave them on the plan.
Putting Aberdeen and Moore County aside, the rest of the world in Moore County offers
I am not aware that
Anything.
anybody offers
Southern Pines,
anything.
Carthage,
Southern
nothing.
Pines does not.
Yeah, so
Right.
I recently had a conversation with Southern Pines because they're experiencing the same issues, and so I shared this agenda item, and it is something that they are likely to pursue in the near future.
Okay, up to them. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, keep going. Just trying to learn a little more.
Yep, so just a couple other financial considerations. We talked about the cost for the administrator. That's pretty minimal. The annual actuarial analysis, based on the cost sheet for the actuary that performed the preliminary analysis, and they're also the same actuary that the village uses for the LEO pension analysis. I'm sorry, not pension, the special separation allowance that has a pension liability. It would be approximately $6,000 per year, additional cost for that actuary to do the OPEB valuation.
Which is required.
Yes.
And the administrator, I think you said $5 per employee per month, so that's de minimis.
Yes.
So in the big picture, this is an issue that we've been wrestling with, well, way before I ever got here, and it's been talked about a lot. So what we've tried to do is pair this and, put fences around it to keep it to a reasonable tax, cost that it will be to the village. And so we feel like this, roughly $50,000 a year, which at first is going to be very, very little because it's only going to be new retirees. So it's going to be at least 5 years before we're paying anything significant out of this. But to think that, for a maximum of about $50,000, we're going to be able to cover this and make it a reasonable benefit, I think is well worth us for recruiting and retaining.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question. Do you see us, if we adopt this, that we have a leg up in the recruitment and retention of our employees?
Yes, certainly.
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
I think from my standpoint, this was the kind of analysis that did not exist 6 months or 7 months ago. And that people who spoke in opposition, there's not an opposition who said, we want to reconsider this. We don't want to decide yet because we don't have this information. This is, I think, exactly what I would have been looking for and what they were looking for.
Yeah. Other questions or comments, Kevin?
It's a very helpful analysis, and I didn't run into this program much in the private sector. It seems more common in the public sector. But I think this policy has a lot going for it. It rewards long service. It supports transition to retirement. It encourages retention, avoids lifetime benefit promises, and it emphasizes dignity, stability, and well-being as you're transitioning in your life. And I think those are all beneficial attributes.
Hard to beat that. No, I would just say I think it looks like a very good program. It is certainly cost-effective. It, I hope, will impact employee retention, which is what this is really all about and so important. So I support it.
Jeremy, did you have any other comments?
None other than support. Some of my questions were answered within the last few statements, so support.
Yeah, I do think this makes us more competitive, particularly here in this county, so which is a plus because it'll help address turnover probably a little bit, and it'll help us attract some people. You won't know until this is in place, and you see what people say when the entrance interview as to why you're coming here. There's going to be someone who says, well, I really liked the benefit you offered. So I think that's one of several reasons to go forward with this, and it's the cost is somewhat de minimis, and I gather we'll probably get a review every year or some update to this, much like we get that email from you about who's eligible for the buyout. Remember, who gets that? One of you two send that to us, to the council.
Comes to both of us, actually. So.
It's both of you? Okay, I just remember looking at it. It's always the same two names. So I very much am supportive of this. So I will entertain a motion or further comments.
I move to approve Resolution 26-08, adopting the retiree health reimbursement account policy.
Okay. Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Go forth.
Thank
you
you
for your
Thank you very much.
update and input and all. It's very, very well thought out.
Employees will appreciate it.
Sure they will. All right. Now we are going on to item C. Consider Resolution 2609, adopting the Village Council's development and growth policy. This is a quite a big statement by the Village of Pinehurst. We'll address this a little as we consider it. What we are doing is hosting a flag of bright, bold colors, not one of pastels and indecisiveness as to how we view development in this historic village. We're basically saying, I think, that we're open for business, but on Pinehurst terms, and that factors in our history, ambiance, reflects the views of the overwhelming majority of our residents. I'm impressed. I think some of my colleagues may have some things they want to adjust or alter, but I'm very much impressed with it. The summary in front of us that was put together by staff there, I thought had 5 good, precise bullets. Like I say, these is bright colors we're putting out there. Some that have been talked about by many members on here on the dais, and particularly Councilwoman Ficklin in the past has addressed this. If, Barb, you want to have any comments before we begin, go right ahead. Nope, you're fine.
Thank you. This was kind of a vague request from a retreat, a planning retreat. I think we need growth policy. And that's really where it ended in terms of conversation. Until the staff put this policy together, and I think it does a wonderful job of explaining how we are going, what our guidelines will be around growth. So my thanks to the staff for all that they put into it, because I think it's an excellent document and will help us in the future. Every one of us who participates in any sort of a decision-making process throughout the village will have these guidelines available. We know that growth has been of paramount concern to all of our residents for a long time. So I hope that residents will take an opportunity to read this document so that they can be reassured that we are in fact committed to managing growth and protecting the character of our village as we go forward. So my thanks, excellent policy.
Well stated. Other comments or suggestions regarding the policy as it's written?
I just had one, and that is to avoid any a perception of a difference between this and what is specified in the comp plan, which is in some sense the overarching, whether we ought to just make specific reference consistent with the comp. We talk about adopted plans and what have you. I don't think it would hurt for us to specify the comp plan but I think in terms of the thrust of the document, I think it should be useful. And it doesn't require someone wading through a 200-page document if they're coming new to the area and wondering what could be permissible or not. But with that exception, I think it's well-crafted.
We do reference the PDO. I'm looking right now, my scribbling. You may be correct. We may have not mentioned the comp plan.
Comp plan is not specifically referenced that I could find. I don't find anything in this that inherently inconsistent with it, but in order to just stitch those two documents together, that would be my suggestion.
I think that's appropriate feedback.
That's easy to amend. Other suggestions? Jeremy, you're knowledgeable in this area.
Well, no suggestions, but just a comment. I recall the conversation during the retreat, and I think that this is a perfect result of that conversation. It was almost like you guys are putting words and direction. It's very, very clear. Now, hopefully this is what you were looking for, because Barb was driving that conversation, and I only answered it with vagueness. So this is a very clear statement. You know, most of the time, municipalities, and as well as Pinehurst, we accept growth pressures as they come to us, either in the form of applications or intent. We also have growth pressures from a county-wide standpoint, and we don't have a lot of clarity about how we're attempting to approach it. So I'm all for this. I've read through it multiple times looking for ways to add something to it. I think it's perfect, and I think it's a clear response that future councils may want to revisit, but this council, I feel that it's a great, clear example of our thought, so.
Okay. In line with, unless someone has something else, in line with what John Taylor mentioned, I scribbled something out here that we can think about. I'm not sure which whereas to put it at, or if it should be under the resolve, but just add the phrase, "and consistent with our Pinehurst Development Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan." Would that work for you, John?
Yeah, so it's something that makes clear that this is not a standalone document. It is subservient to that which is, I believe, the statutorily governing document anyway. But I think that'd be a fine.
So, Doug, I scribbled it as either being added to the end of the resolve under number 1, or putting it at the end of the last whereas, and consistent with the PDO and the comprehensive plan. Whatever you think works, we can do that.
I think either of those would be fine if you
Okay,
make your motion to amend as stated. Yeah.
I will do that. Barb, do you have any particular thoughts of where you'd want to insert that, or
No,
either
that's
one?
fine, yes.
Okay. All right, then I will gladly make the motion. This is, again, as I said earlier, this will guide decision-making, I think, while preserving the character and quality of life that defines Pinehurst. So I think it should be welcomed by many. So I am going to offer I'm going to move to approve Resolution 26-09, adopting the Village's Council Development Growth Policy with the addition of the phrase, "and consistent with the Pinehurst Development Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan," to be inserted under the resolved item number 1 at the last, right after the word Village of Pinehurst. Is that, anyone want to
At
second?
the end of the motion?
Yes, that's the end of the motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So adopted. Congratulations, council. It's a really good statement. Thank you, Barb, for signaling that out early on. Okay. Now we go to regular business, as opposed to the previous business, which was not regular. Okay. This is, consider the purchase of Murdochsville Road property. There's Carlton. Okay, didn't see you there, Carlton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Proceed, Carlton and Doug, as you like, and explain a little, fill in a little of the background here.
Sure, I'll be brief. The next item actually kind of piggybacks with this. So at council's direction, we secured a offer to purchase 19.24 acres of property on Murdochsville Road for $470,000. With that property being used for future village use, with the most likely use being for the relocation of public services. And we're asking for council to formally approve that purchase and designate Doug as the signer for that to execute the documents. Closing could be as soon as this week, although it could be delayed with the situation with the McKenzie family.
Right. Just for the sake of people who are listening and refresh our memories, this, it's in your memo, but I want to verbalize it. It's 19.24 acres, and it is located on Murdochsville Road. Is it in our corporate limits, or is it in the ETJ?
I don't think it's the ETJ. I think it's county zoning area. It's north of town before you get to Juniper Lake Road on Murdochsville Road, kind of across north of number 8 and
Yes.
across the street.
You may get an annexation petition from Carlton.
Well, good. We just made some statement in our development policy regarding annexation petitions. But, okay, I'm trying to pinpoint it. I'm driving down the road. When I get to turn into Pinehurst number 8, do I keep going, or is it before number 8?
Keep going north as you go, and the curve is on the left.
It's on the left. It's not at the corner, though.
No.
It's on,
Correct.
okay,
It's
I know
before,
exactly
before
where it is
Juniper
now.
Lake Road.
Okay, I kept thinking it was a little closer in the past, but I have not looked at it for some time. Doug, it looks like you're pulling it up, aren't you?
Yeah, this is the property, and I mean, for 19 acres, relatively close to the center heart of the village of Pinehurst. I think this is a reasonable price.
Okay, so it's about a block away from the entrance to number 8.
Yeah, this is the road to number 8.
Perfect.
And the color coding there implies it is not in the current village limits.
That's correct.
Right.
And just to go fast forward on this, the process for, well, it's vacant land right now, so the annexation is easy, so to speak, with the sale, and the purchase.
And we'd be the petitioner for annexation, so
Right, I understand that.
that makes it a lot more simple.
And what is the relationship with the county for this transaction? Any?
I don't think there'd be any relationship. If we make the purchase, we could annex and zone it
Okay,
accordingly.
sounds good.
Are there any-
Questions?
Are there any impediments to closing on this with probate or issues?
According to our real estate attorney, there would not be. It's just because both names are on the deed, Mrs. McKenzie could continue to sell the property to us. There has been no indication that she's not, but they both Marty and Mrs. McKenzie signed the offer to purchase, so
And I think that was dated January 5th.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah, because
Yes, sir.
I forget when I had to sign something, but it was a couple weeks ago. All right. Any other thoughts at this moment? What we have is the culmination of something we recommended based on the recommendation of our village manager of a month ago or so. I forget the exact date.
Yep.
So this is sort of regular order, catching up with events. So I will consider what's next unless someone has a question.
I move to approve ordinance 26-01, amending the, wait a minute. Sorry, I'm in the wrong place. We don't have a specific motion here. Do we
We
need one?
consider,
Yeah,
well,
there's
the
not
the
one.
next item is the motion, I'm sorry. Then,
You can make a motion if you'd like, just to authorize me to execute all necessary paperwork.
I would move to authorize and appoint the village manager to execute any and all documents necessary for the acquisition of real property located at 3778 Murdochsville Road,
okay,
further
second.
identified as parcel ID 000-22801.
Okay. Second, we have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion adopted. Thank you. Okay, one more thing. We got done. Okay, so now we go to 9. Well, actually, did we sort of vote on 9A, or do we need to vote on 9A also?
Yeah,
Doug?
this would just be the budget amendment to cover.
Oh, it's a budget amendment. You're right. Okay.
Yes, so the budget amendment, because we did not plan for this purchase in the FY26 budget, but this is what our fund balance, one of the things our fund balance is for when opportunities such as this arise. So the budget amendment is to add the expenditure appropriation for $475,000. That's the $470,000 purchase price plus $5,000 in case there's any additional due diligence or closing costs. Previous land acquisitions, the closing costs were less than $5,000. That should be plenty, but just to make sure we don't have to come back for anything additional to make this happen. Okay. And then the offsetting expected revenue is fund balance.
Gotcha. All righty. You have what you need, Doug?
I move to approve ordinance 26-01, amending the fiscal year 2026 general fund budget to purchase the real property located at 3778 Murdochsville Road, further identified as parcel ID 000-22801, for $470,000, with an additional amount of $5,000 allocated for due diligence and closing costs.
Second.
Motion second? Oh,
Aye.
I heard a second? I thought I did. Yes, I did. Jeremy, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion adopted. We are now to ordinance 9B. This is this very topic that we heard from earlier tonight from one of our public comments.
I'd be happy to maybe lead this off, because I think I was the recipient of the original issue.
I love a volunteer. Go right ahead.
And I'm sorry that Ms. Layler's not here, because I think it will answer her questions. There was a,
Let me ask you to do this. Can Doug walk us through first his memo? And the reason I say that is because you're going to have an explanation for what she's going to, what is,
either
just
way,
to set the stage.
either way.
Doug, can you give us a little history on how this evolved? Because
Sure, it's probably overlap with what John would have said, but a couple weeks ago, we received complaints regarding trash receptacles out on the road along Spur Road. So we sent code enforcement staff out to look at it. The one specific home, which happens to be a short-term rental, they looked at, there was a violation, but also there were many other violations on the road, so they went and appropriately sent letters to them, no fines or anything, but asked them to, move their trash receptacles. However, Spur Road is a very unique situation. So it is a dirt road. For all intents and purposes, probably everyone thinks it's an alleyway. And so it is actually a public right-of-way. It's only about 10 feet-ish wide, gravel. And so there's a few options we could do here. We could say, hey, everyone that lives on here, you'd have to follow the regular right-of-way rules. Which would be, we have two separate ones that we're considering here. One is trash receptacles cannot be stored in the public right-of-way and have to be a certain distance behind the front corner of the house, et cetera. And the other one is parking in the right-of-way overnight. So we could, keep it a public road, enforce those rules. We could give it back to the abutters, which would have some costs associated with it. Or what I'm proposing here is that we just treat it like an alleyway as far as the public ordinances are concerned. That way, for all the neighbors, it's treated like an alley, but we don't have to go through the hassle of trying to survey the property and give it to the abutting neighbors.
one question. Will that require residents to move their trash receptacles to the front of their house, or they can remain in the back where it is now?
They could, under which scenario? So they can keep them in the back, but the current rules are that, it can't be visible from the public right-of-way or has to be like within, like 10
5 feet
feet
of the
back,
house.
5 feet,
Yeah.
something like that.
No, I walk my dog down there sometimes. I'm familiar with it.
Yeah.
And they all seem to have them in the back.
Yeah, they're all on Spur Road, but because Spur Road is a public right-of-way, some of them are very obviously, they have, corrals built.
Yes,
or
they do.
have like, improved areas with pavers where they keep their things. So most of those are in violation currently as the road is.
So the original complaint, I believe, was that there was excessive trash in excess of what would fit in the barrels that was put out several days before the normal collection date. And anywhere in Pinehurst, you're not supposed to do that. When village staff went out to investigate that and found that, in fact, there was a violation, they also noticed that there were multiple other trash receptacles out, as Doug suggested, more than 5 feet away from the house. In some cases, in improved areas, screened areas, or just on cement pads or what have you. And we dutifully wrote letters to all the residents. There was a specific complaint about one property, but these other people were technically in violation. And I received a call from someone who lives on Fields Road, whose property backs up to Spur Road, saying, I've been leaving my barrels out there for years. What's this letter all about? So I spoke with Angel, I spoke with Carlton, and I spoke with Mike to try to get some background on this. And to the point that Doug made, Spur Road looks like, in most cases, the alleys that exist throughout Old Town. I used to live on one of those. Alleys are specifically exempted from this, so if you have an alley behind your property and that's where trash is picked up, you can leave your barrels out there all week long, and most people do. So this person said, well, I've been leaving my barrels out there for 20 years or whatever it is. I've never had a problem. I don't understand what the issue is. So in particular, speaking with both Carlton and Mike, they said it probably isn't an issue because people driving down Fields Road cannot see these things, right? But it is not an alley, it is a road. And so to Doug's point, so we could just say, sorry people, you got to abide by the existing rules, which would mean hauling their barrels to within 5 feet of the house for 6 days a week, and then 1 day a week dragging them back out onto Spur Road. That was one option. Second option was to declare Spur Road an alley. But that would mean you'd kind of have to divide the property up. And who gets what, and that would both be somewhat expensive and time-consuming. And the third is to exempt Spur Road from the ordinance which applies to all the other roads in Pinehurst, because it is more like an alley than it is like a true road. So my question both in discussions with Carlton and discussions with Mike is, how many other situations are there like this? I don't want to solve one problem and create 20 others. And Mike, I think I'm paraphrasing that it's hard to come up with another road that is like this. So I think in recognition of the long history that these people have put it out there, from a trash perspective, I don't see a problem with us approving the amendment to the ordinance, which basically says we're carving Spur Road out of the ordinance as it applies to all other roads in Pinehurst. I had no discussions in the course of this regarding parking. And I know that parking can be an issue. It has been an issue at the one particular property, which is a short-term rental. It is conceivably an issue for other properties. If you had a large number of guests at your house, I don't know that we are required to include parking in this. Is there some marriage of those two items together?
No, but I would keep them together only because if you're going to treat it like an alleyway, I would treat it for an alleyway for all purposes. So we've had complaints about people parking cars in Spur Road overnight, but I don't think there have been any complaints that was actually a problem. Like, I don't think it was blocking access through it. I think there was just complaints that they were doing it, and technically that's not allowed.
And I'm not sure. I guess Derek just left. I don't think the fire department needs to go down Spur Road, or do they? Maybe behind the condominiums. I'm trying to
Yeah,
think.
I mean, if it was easier access, I'm sure they would use it. Still, if cars parking there were to, block access through it, that would be a violation, separate violation than just, parking on the side in the pine straw.
My recollection is that Spur Road is very sandy.
It is, and it's 60 feet wide, so
Yeah,
and
it's a
you're only
big
using
road.
10 for the travel lane, so there is a lot of space.
It is
on
much
the side.
wider than every other alley I can think of in Old Town.
Yeah, because it was drawn up to be an actual public road,
Right.
so it was 60 feet wide.
Well, John, based on your comments and Doug's response, I mean, it makes total sense to me from the trash receptacle side. It makes plenty of sense. I am curious about bringing in the parking. What's the secondary and tertiary effects of bringing in parking into this?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be kind of blunt. Like, there's concerns about the short-term rentals on this road, and we have received complaints about those parking in the back in the past. However, the complaint wasn't that they were causing a problem necessarily. It's just that it was an actual violation because, Spur Road is a public right-of-way, so they can't park there overnight. So I think, we would still, if this went through, we would still monitor it, and if there were ever, parking violations, as in blocking access to driveways or throughways, that would still be a violation that we would enforce.
But for clarity, it would open up Spur Road to parking along the side of the roads by the property.
Yes.
It then no longer would be a violation.
Right. Yeah, and the intent is that if you're going to treat it like an alleyway, treat it like an alleyway.
So if you treat it like an alleyway, is there signage that would be appropriate so that people don't see it as a thoroughfare anymore, it's an alley?
I mean, we could always put up signage. I don't know of any signage that's necessarily needed. People don't typically use it as a throughway now. It looks like you shouldn't drive down it.
I received a call from a resident this afternoon inquiring about this. And after a fairly lengthy discussion, I said, well, when was the last time before today in response to this agenda item that you drove down Spur Road? And they said, probably never. There are very few people who would, on a routine basis, drive down Spur Road. When I lived there, I used to walk our dogs down Spur Road, but I never drove down Spur Road to get from point A to point B.
There are people, not all of them there, that is their access to their garage
Yes.
and their driveway in the back there.
And that's very typical of alleys.
Right,
throughout.
but not all of them, but that is, the Brittany is not like that, but there are some of them there. So if I'm currently living there and we adopt the trash receptacle issue, it really has no impact on me. Is that a fair statement? I'm going to, whatever the day of the week is they come by, I'm going to do what I usually do with the trash and,
It appears that, typically it's just left on the side of the road.
Yes.
Yeah, so yes, probably no change.
The reality is, in lieu of having the barrel next to your house and dragging it out to the alley once a week, you have to walk your garbage out to
Every
the
day.
barrel 3 times a week and drop it in the barrel out there.
yeah.
That's the reality.
That's
Yes,
what most of us
that's
have to
true.
do in Pinehurst.
Pardon me?
That's what most all the rest of us have to do, and I'm not picking on anybody on Spur Road, but that's kind of a,
But that's not what
Natural
people
thing.
who have an alley behind their house have to do.
sure. I got a couple questions about the alley, whatever you say. So, who would be responsible for the maintenance and the upkeep if we turn this to an alley?
Yeah, so right now, we are in charge of maintaining it. If it were literally, abandoned as a public right-of-way, then it would have to go to the abutting property owners.
But
We'd
we're
have
not
to
a-
figure that out with them, like, are they willing to accept it? What if they aren't willing to accept it? That's kind of some hoops we have to jump through.
So we're not abandoning this, we're just gonna make it order to say,
Yeah.
treat this as such.
Yes, that is what I'm proposing, that we don't actually abandon, but under the parking and the trash receptacle, the overnight parking and the trash receptacle, we just treat it as if it were an alleyway.
Okay, that probably solves my second question, which is if we turn this to an alleyway, so we're just gonna treat it, it would not actually take Spur Road, change it from a road. It's a historic road that's been on a lot of early maps of Pinehurst, and so we're not taking that away
Yeah.
and removing it and erasing it in a sense.
Yeah, what I'm recommending is, no, it stays a platted right-of-way.
My concern in doing this is that we're kind of just taking the headache away. It seemed like we'd be doing this for doing the trash receptacles, which I totally understand and agree with. And if I lived on any of those roads, I would have that same feeling. I don't think it solves the problem of the extra trash bags that should be inside of the barrel.
Agreed, that is,
It just takes out of our eyesight and maybe our purview
yeah.
is my concern.
Right, any trash outside of a barrel would still need to be addressed.
And it opens the alleyway up for parking, greater parking intensity. We would still be responsible for the maintenance, which then in turn, if we treat it like an alley, it still becomes a public street, and me as as a citizen of Pinehurst, I should be able to drive down that street without arguably, I should be able to drive without a lot of impediments. So that's my concerns, really, of what we're talking about here. It really has to do with the historic road. I don't want to make this an STR issue, but I don't think it solves the problem of the extra parking. It just takes it away from our vision. And so that's just my concerns. I'm not saying I'm okay with it. I'm just worried about us. And I'm not saying we're going to do this further in the future, but if we have a problem with another street and we want to be blind to the issues, then let's create an ordinance that just says that we don't have to monitor our ordinances on that one street. That's my roadblock with this whole thing. So,
I think it's fair enough that it is a weird situation that you're like,
Awkward,
we're going to
yeah.
exempt one road from these two rules, but the alternatives are not good, so.
awkward to say the least, right? And I understand that awkwardness, so I don't know if we can solve that, yeah.
But again, to your point, that any trash outside of a barrel is a violation that needs to be dealt with separately from them leaving trash barrels on the side of the right-of-way.
And if it's going to happen on an alleyway versus it's going to happen on a public street.
Either way, we are addressing that issue on
Doug, is your concern by including parking along with the trash barrels to avoid the appearance that we're singling out any particular property?
That's, yes, some of the concern. And I also don't think that there is a parking issue on Spur.
No, my understanding is that from an access standpoint, for anyone who did need to drive through there to get to their garage, to get to their, some people have what I will call driveways entering off Spur Road. No one has ever complained that they couldn't get there. That I'm aware of.
Down there, I just look at the backyards they have.
And because
the
it's 60
driveway.
feet wide, you'd really have to have a whole lot of car, and that would prove to be a violation anyway.
Yeah, I mean, in order to actually impede travel through it, you'd have to be double parked all over the
Right,
place.
yeah, that's true. Other comments on this or thoughts where people are? Barb, yes?
We've got an ordinance amendment to make this happen, essentially. So somewhere in our code, we're changing this from a road to an alley. And I wonder if,
We're not. We're not changing it to an alley. We're exempting this road from those ordinances which apply to all the other roads.
We're not going to enforce the ordinances on that road.
it's not officially an alley.
No.
It's just a road with exemptions.
Yes, that is what's being
That's the
proposed.
result.
In lieu of having to divide the property up, which you would have to do if you made it an alley. And there are, I don't know, 8 or 9, maybe 10 properties along Fields Road and 4 or 5 or 6, not counting the condominiums, on the Maple, I'll call the Maple Road side, the west side of
Right,
of Spur.
yeah, and so, we kind of talked about it already, but it gets messy. Say if someone isn't willing to accept it, when we abandon it, then, who's it belong to and who's paying for all that? When you say up, you mean this way?
And currently, it's not permitted, parking.
Yeah, overnight parking is not. During the day, it is.
In theory, to park there overnight, you would have to pull into a parking pad, a driveway, something off the 60-foot wide roadway.
Mm-hmm. Oh, boy.
Afraid of a precedent of some kind that,
Yeah,
Any language that can be added to make it less of a precedent? I'm trying to figure out a way to.
and I'm trying to think of other, roads like this. Again, I don't know every road in the village. I know there's another dirt road, but that has all the houses facing on it, and so it isn't really applicable. It's not like an alleyway.
This is the rear of houses. This
Yeah.
is the rear.
So I really can't think of another situation that's applicable.
It's a road that has no houses facing on it, but many houses backing up to it. And again, my interest in this was strictly with respect to the trash barrels. It was not with respect to the parking.
yeah, and the parking is the piece that bothers me. So are there mailboxes back there, or are there mailboxes in the front?
No, they're in the front.
Yeah,
Front, okay.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone has an address of Spur Road.
no, not that I'm aware of.
No. No, the corner house
Is it
that's on
possible?
Everett has an Everett address, so that I know. I mean, Barb has a good point. What if we were to adopt just section 1 tonight? And so we move forward, and then we noodle a little more on the parking one, I guess. Is that sound okay with folks?
mean-
John and,
I don't think, there's nothing that would legally restrict you from doing that. I would just recommend that if you're gonna treat it as an alley for one reason, you should probably do it for all the reasons. And again, I don't think that there is a issue with people that are going to be creating parking problems back there. And it specifically lists that you can't impede the roadway or emergency access or maintenance. But You do
Yeah,
what you want.
that's true.
What I could get.
Overnight parking that bothers me.
What I could get behind is not treating it out of the alleyway in no manner, just by being very clear of saying, we're not going to enforce this one ordinance on this one village road. I just think that's being clear and direct and achieving what we ultimately want to achieve about the trash barrels. That's what we want to offer, and I think that's prudent, and I think that's, I'm worried about the precedent, just like Barb is, but I think that if that's what we're trying to achieve for the residents there, that's one topic.
As I say, I did not anticipate parking becoming a part of this. I would be content with that. And whether we need to revisit parking or not is almost a separate question. It was not part of the original complaint. It was not part of the original citation for violations. And maybe that's best left unaddressed.
Well, if someone wants to make a motion along those lines, we could move forward. I suppose
how
if
are
it
you-
wasn't that particular, those houses that backed into it, we would just be moving right down the road here. I mean,
Yeah,
that's, you know.
I very much agree, but I also don't want to leave the impression that we're, picking out on certain addresses as well.
But as John said, the original question was just about the trash, not the parking. So
So would you just notify those individual owners whose properties back up to Spur
Yeah, yes.
by mail, I assume?
So, I mean, if this went forward, everyone that we sent a letter that said, you can't put your trash can out there, we just send another letter and say, you can't put your trash can out there.
You can do what you've been doing forever.
yeah, that is a good news letter and maybe. All right, does somebody want to make a motion one way or the other here?
I'd be happy to make it, but we have to, Shannon, go down a little bit so that I make sure I know what to exclude.
Just one question on that topic. I do believe that we should remove any sort of utilizing Spur Road in an alley-like fashion. And I'm not sure it's in this ordinance at the front. Maybe we take a look at it and just basically say we're just not going to. Doug, does that, if we just remove certain sections, does that achieve that? Or would it not?
I mean, all the ordinance is specifically doing is exempting it from, if you follow section 1, from the trash receptacle.
I don't think
in
there's any
section 2.
reference, Jeremy, to this
That's
as
what-
an
this
alley.
being
That's
an
what I'm trying to
alley.
double check. As long as there's no references to alley, I could get behind that. As long as it was just for the trash barrels only.
So can we go up just a little bit here? And up a little more.
If I were to make the motion with the intent that I believe the council has, I would make the motion with striking section 2.
2 and 3. There's no need for severability if you don't have 2 in it, I don't think.
Well,
I mean,
If-
it's possible that
I would never
section
strike
1 could be an
severability.
issue.
Okay.
I would never leave severability where it is.
Then I move to approve ordinance 26-05, amending section 50.05 of the Village of Pinehurst Municipal Code to add subsection 50.05D Spur Road exemption, including sections 1, excluding section 2.
Excluding section 2. Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. It's adopted. We can always revisit things.
Great work.
Okay. Now we are at other business. I had 2 minor things I had scribbled out. I just wanted to remind folks that, I don't know, may have been a couple of months now, I don't know how quickly time has passed. Doug provided us with a draft of the community survey that he had culled down to a much more practical size document. And so I just remind folks, if you haven't looked at it, look at it in the coming month, so we can get back to Doug with some. I looked at it once. I just want to look at it again, but most of what I saw is very practical. But we may have an addition. Is that okay, Doug, for
Yeah,
people to get
my
it to you?
intent is to kind of finalize a version in March, so it
Okay.
can go out in late April, May.
Okay, so let's try to get something to Doug in the next 2 weeks. How's that sound?
And I would encourage people, as you're reviewing that, to think about any specific things that we want to learn. The past survey, pre-Doug cutting it down, was relatively generic. And sometimes you say, well, how is it possible they didn't ask about X or Y? So if there's specific things that we want to ask about, this is our opportunity to get those included.
Yeah, I think we can cover, the standard questions, so we have the ability to, look at data across, generations. But yes, there should be room for a few,
Okay.
issue-specific questions.
Okay, Doug sent it to us electronically a month ago, so please do that. Second item is, I'm not quite sure, I'm sure Doug knows, is the intersection, the four-way stop, is that finished now, or is there something left that has to be done before?
There's still some painting, striping on the road that still needs to be completed.
Okay,
So, the stop bars are done, but some of the parking areas still need to be delineated.
I think when it is finally finished, we probably should anticipate inquiries, so we should get it, some sort of wrap-up document, and,
Yeah.
okay, just for our,
Particularly as regards final cost, adjusted for various adjustments.
yeah. Okay, those were my two other business items. Anybody else have something they want to raise?
I have the one that we moved to this point, which was on the minutes for the January 13th meeting.
Yes. Go ahead.
So in reviewing those, as I always do, obviously I caught the one minor one where it said there was a unanimous, but the vote was 4-1. So we ought to just fix that. But more importantly, I thought it was important in the discussion that we had with regard to the project adjacent to the greens at the Arboretum. There was concern, I think, from all of us on the council about congruousness with the existing downtown area. And we received a representation from the applicant saying that they would work with us. I don't claim that that is binding legally, but I thought it's worth noting in the formal minutes that we received such an assurance. I'm indifferent as to whether we specify anyone's name. That I don't know that we need to. I think we can pull the name out and just say the Chief
Applicant.
Business Development Officer.
We can just say the applicant.
No, or
Sure.
the applicant, either one.
And, sorry, I had a busy afternoon. Shannon, did you share revised minutes with the council to address this?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, so you received those?
No. Also, since I was on a roll here.
Go ahead.
One of the statement was that the council discussed, we didn't really discuss it. Pat mentioned receipt of a letter. That was the end of it. There was no discussion that I recall. And finally, I'm sorry, then it was stated that we discussed things related to the Moore County Land Use Plan. It was not the land use plan, is my recollection. It was the municipal utilities plan. The land use plan's already been adopted. We didn't discuss that.
I think that's the municipal utilities was a separate component. Jeremy, do you remember that? Wasn't there a separate portion of the land use plan that said the county shall set up something to do with municipal utilities? Doug, do you remember? I
Advisory committee, go ahead.
You can answer too, but I think our original letter was saying that, the land use plan suggested that there's a committee of municipalities, and we want to be a part of that. And kind of on a separate issue is based on the land use plan, they're putting forward a Moore County utilities plan, and we also want to say, don't leave us out in the dark on that as well.
and we sent a letter forward, didn't we?
I put one in your box to sign, yes.
Is it sitting there, or did I sign it?
I put it in today.
Okay, well, we'll sign it tomorrow. Okay. All right, thank you.
And then finally, On the fourth point, I had raised the question to Doug, whether we felt the need to have a formal policy regarding due diligence, a checklist, if you will, or what is it, what do we either want to be sure that we ask, if we're the ones conducting it?
Oh.
Or if we have subcontracted that to a consultant, what answers do we want to be sure we get back? And I think, Doug, I think you said you would take that under advisement.
Yeah, we're going to detail our process, our current process, and just share with council.
Okay, that'd be great to bring something forward when it's ready, so we get a flavor of how we're doing it. Okay, so, so you want to take on your motion?
Yeah, I mean, do I need to list out all of these things, Shannon, or can I move that we adopt them per your revisions?
And you need to remove the name, so it says applicant.
Yeah. I move to approve the January 13th, 2026 regular meeting minutes with the following amendments. Item 11A, ordinance 26-03, remove unanimously from the motion to approve. Item 11A, ordinance 26-03, add a sentence to the first paragraph stating that the applicant informally agreed to work with village council and staff to select exterior materials congruous with the existing downtown. Item 14, first paragraph, replace discussed with acknowledged. Item 14, second paragraph, replace land use plan with municipal utilities plan. And item 14, fourth paragraph, revised to read, council asked Mr. Willardson to discuss with village staff whether a formal policy on the due diligence process for contractors is needed.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion adopted. I will entertain a motion to adjourn, and then I would suggest we reconvene at 6:30.
I move to adjourn the regular meeting.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned till 6:30.